We are live. Bristol. Food City 500. I am, Nick, we thanks for joining, by the way.
Anytime.
Great to have you on. Glad it worked out this week to have you join.
Glad I woke up in time.
Yeah, right. So I think we're both on the same page with a couple things, and that's number one, this slate sucks.
Yeah.
This
It
is
sucks.
this is not a very fun. I don't even have many bets. I know we're on the opposite side of one bet, but outside of that, I took Busher plus 110 over Ty Gibbs. I know you like Gibbs over Busher. And I used a 30% profit boost to grab Hamlin and get it at plus 6 whatever. And that was just to use that boost. But other than that, I don't feel super confident about it. This definitely isn't a Phoenix week. Last week we both crushed Phoenix pretty well. And I'm not feeling that this week. And I think part of it is the uncertainty of Bristol itself. They haven't ran a spring race here yet in this next gen car. And then the fucking resin on this track that is just throwing everyone through a loop. We got Ross Chastain starting dead last. We got Chris Buescher starting 34th, Hocevar starting 35th. Those are the main guys that got affected by it. Then we have some other, decently big name drivers starting deep in the field. We got Bowman starting 29th. Ty Gibbs, who had an issue during practice, he's starting 19th. Tyler Reddick starting 23rd. He looked really strong in practice. Starting 23rd, he obviously runs the high line here at Bristol, which is going to come into play. Like, how long is this resin going to even last? I've seen anywhere from 25 to 50 laps estimate of how this is going to last and what it's going to do. Because if it makes these cars as loose as it made them in practice and qualifying, who's to say we're not going to bunch up a bunch of cars on lap 70? Like, this whole race is, I'm not excited. I'm excited to watch it. I am not excited to really, have a major amount of money on this just because of the uncertainty and what could potentially happen here. So
Yeah,
obviously, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's interesting. You mentioned the resin, and I think people. So Bob Pockris tweeted that they're reapplying the resin and stuff, and it seems like the natural reaction is to get really mad at that. But I think it's a great move. I think they should reapply the resin. You know why? Because, like you said, we don't know how long it's going to last, and we saw it come apart so quickly in practice that it's going to change track conditions. And drivers are going to have to adapt to the different track conditions. If they didn't reapply the resin, all you would see is a boring one groove race the whole race, I think. Right. So I think we need the resin. That's just a product of what Bristol is now with its current configuration. It's not configured the pre 2000 whatever it was, like 8 or 7 6 Bristol, where they changed Bristol a few times in those years. It's never going to be the same. So we have to do something to make it exciting. And that's where NASCAR has applied PJ1 and then now resin over top of the PJ1 and all this stuff. And if NASCAR didn't do this, you just see them running one groove. I think it would eventually, just wear out the bottom and they would just run the top the whole race. And I think it would be terrible. So I'm okay with it. I'm glad NASCAR is trying something to, make the line move throughout the race, because that's what we want. We want it eventually to be where you can run the high line, you can run the low line, you can run the middle. And I think that makes for better racing. So stop complaining before you see it. Stop complaining before you see it. That's my thing.
Yeah. And that's the,
and you and I both have said this many times on Stacking Denny's, our podcast. NASCAR's largely crushed it with their decisions this year. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one before the race. If they start racing and it's just awful, then I'll say it's awful. I'm not sitting here, I've never been one to rah NASCAR decisions, but they've done a good job this year.
And I think the resin aspect of it is also going to, like you said, it's going to change the race mid-race. So the guys that are fast early might not be fast late. on top of, Ryan Blaney had an absolute rocket ship in practice. Bubba Wallace looked great. Ross Chastain looked great. But then you look at Group B, and they had, that issue with Ty Gibbs, which created what a lot of drivers thought was marbles on that resin, which completely screwed them in their session. How do we adjust for these? It's a pretty much lack of practice speeds, because not many drivers in that second session made a run longer than 10 laps. They were all significantly slower than the guys in Group A. The only guy that made a long run was Tyler Reddick. He made, a 30+ lap run. How are we supposed to analyze this, from this perspective? Like, obviously we're comparing them against each other, but there's just such a lack of data here that it's almost like practice, especially for Group B, was a little worthless on Saturday.
Yeah, it was. Group B was really hard to judge anything, to gauge how they are, to compare them to Group A drivers. Obviously you can compare them within group, but it was, even comparing them within group is pretty hard, because all of a sudden there was Ty Gibbs wrecked on lap 2, and that took the first couple of 1 or 2 good laps of the tires off as well. And then it was just all the garbage laps after that. So Group B is tough, man. I don't have a good grasp on Group B. And so what I'm going to default to is, how good were they at Bristol in the next gen car so far, or in the past, for me, it's the past 8 races of Bristol. That's why I was on Ryan Blaney. It seemed to work out well. But, just how good are they at Bristol overall over, last handful of races, not just the next gen car. And then maybe I'll put a little bit of stock into their practice times from Group B and compare them within group. I'm not going to be like, oh, Chase Elliott, is better or worse than Ryan Blaney because he was the fastest in Group B in terms of like overall lap average. So I don't necessarily think that means he's as good as Blaney, or he's worse than Blaney, or he's better than Blaney. I have no idea. Because we can't really compare from Group A to Group B. What I do know is Blaney kicked the shit out of everybody in qualifying as well. So, Blaney looks good. I think we all can agree that Blaney is probably, based off what we have seen, the car to beat. Now, that doesn't mean things won't change, of course, but I think Blaney's the car to beat. I think Ross is the second car to beat, honestly.
That's saying a lot.
So Ross and Blaney were in the same group. Blaney had a better 5 and 10 lap average than Ross, but barely. And then Ross pitted after lap 11. So then Ross's 15, his 20, his 25, his 30 lap average all came because he had to run another 10 laps just to get to the 15 lap average, right? So he's already at 20 something laps when his 25 laps when his 15 lap average gets posted. And so his times don't make any sense, but Buescher did the exact same thing, and Ross was half a second per lap faster than Buescher on every single average. So it's pretty telling. And then if we look at the overall lap times, Ross Chastain's overall lap time, if you average out all the lap times, was faster than Blaney's, and Ross ran like 15 more laps, almost 17 more laps, something like that, than Blaney. So that's Group A for me. And I think Ross could be right up there with Blaney as the car to beat. But then Group B, you'd look at what I think we can do again is look at the overall lap times and adjust for the number of laps. And to me, it looked like Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski were 1 and 2 in overall lap time. Keselowski ran 2 more laps than Elliott. So neck and neck, I would say Elliott and Kes may have been best in Group B.
Yeah, which is a little surprising, because Larson was in that group, Hamlin was in that group. But I agree with you. Keselowski has been awesome here at Bristol forever, and there's no RFK has been great here the last 2 years in the next gen car. Larson's Larson. He's great at Bristol. I have no doubt that he's going to get there. So getting back to Ross Chastain and his better speeds, obviously favorites today are Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell. Those are the top 3. And there's no reason they shouldn't be. Would you bet Ross Chastain? He's at 22-1 on BetMGM. You think that's an outright bet that's worth taking?
Yeah, I do. I bet him after practice and qualifying ended, right when lines
Mhm.
opened, I bet him at 33. My bet moved him to 28 at Caesars.
Mhm.
Then he reopened 30 at MGM, 32 at FanDuel. I liked all those. Obviously, he has since moved down since then. But I have Ross Chastain at 4.8% to win, and I think my model is underestimating him. So, if I do 4.8%, that is exactly 20 to 1. So if you're getting him 20 to 1 or longer, definitely bet him. And like I said, I
Mhm.
think my model's underestimating him. Obviously, there's a concern. Well, he's starting dead last. Would he get lapped early? Sure, that's possible. But he's also probably going to pass a bunch of cars. That'll give him a buffer before he gets lapped. And I
Right.
would guess, based off the way the resin came up yesterday and they're reapplied it today, that there could be some cars slipping and sliding and creating some cautions to help keep him on the lead lap early. So I feel okay about taking Ross at 20 to 1, 22 to 1, whatever it is you have at those odds. So yeah,
Mhm.
totally fine with me. Love him in DFS. And people are saying like, oh, chalky Chris Buescher, chalky Ross Chastain. Buescher and Chastain were in the same group. They had the exact same deal happen in practice where they pitted between their 10 and 15 lap average, and Ross was half a second per lap faster than Buescher. So I like chalky Ross. I don't necessarily like chalky Buescher as much. If
Yeah,
we're
I
talking,
don't.
DFS.
Yeah, so we can shift over here quick and look at this the DFS board here. I don't see how, unless you're intentionally hoping that Chastain has an issue, I don't see how you leave him off your lineups today. $8,500 starting dead last with one of the fastest cars in practice.
Mm-hmm.
This is you can't ask for more. We saw Kyle Larson start dead last here last fall. He finished second. Like, it's not impossible. It's not a death trap to start dead last at Bristol. It's not ideal, certainly, but a fast car is going to get through the field and eventually he's going to get there. The question is how you build the rest of your lineup around it, because Bristol 500 laps, we have a ton of Dominator points. We typically see 3 Dominators here when we come to Bristol. Most
Yep.
likely Dominators this week, though, are obviously Ryan Blaney. He's at a good price at 10,500. It really allows you to put a good lineup together. If you start with Blaney, Chastain, you can easily put together a good lineup. It depends, though, how much you want to focus on place differential, as opposed to some of these, these guys that are starting higher up front, but also have Dominator potential, So like, if you're starting here with Blaney and Chastain, you have, are we on the same page? Do you love Carson Hocevar as the low dollar guy this week as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carson Hocevar. And here's the thing. He was on a lap and just sent it into the turns too hard, right? So Hocevar did essentially what Ross did. And, I compare those two a lot. Like, Hocevar is a young Ross. They both just fucking sent it on their qualifying lap and it didn't stick because of how the track was. But I actually think that's good for both of them, because now they both know, like, okay, this is what I can expect. And Hocevar, he's so good. He's so good at Bristol. He's been amazing in the next gen car, whether he's run for the 42 team last year or the 77 team this year with Spire. He's outperforming his equipment, and I think he'll continue to do so. And this is a track that's really good for him.
Yeah, you look at his teammates and the speed that they had. Zane Smith qualified 16th. Corey LaJoie qualified 18th. Corey LaJoie is not good at Bristol, so the fact that he
No.
qualified 18th just tells you what kind of car that Hocevar has. Yeah, his practice times were garbage. He didn't really practice much though either. So to me, Chastain, Hocevar, unless you're intentionally going off of one or both of them in like a single entry or a qualifier, I just don't see how you get off of those guys, because there's the value is just there for both of them. And then obviously, you're building around Blaney too. Again, if you're in single entry, if you're in a qualifier, you might take a chance and not go Blaney, because Hamlin's starting third. He could get up there and be the early dominator. You got Bell starting 12th that can get up there. He can dominate. Who are your dominators this week? When it obviously Blaney's number one. To me, I got Blaney, Hamlin, and then Larson Bell's like a toss up to me for 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there, which is a little scary. I think Chase Elliott could dominate.
Yes, same here. My projections
I
love Chase Elliott today.
Yeah, I think Chase Elliott could dominate. I think Bell's tough because he's starting 12th, but obviously he's great here.
Mm-hmm.
Could Keselowski dominate? Absolutely. I think outside of the four you mentioned, I would look at Elliott and Keselowski as potential dominators. And, with Keselowski, you get the added bonus of he starts 17th. So you get a lot of place differential with that. But it's kind of like, in a weird way, it's kind of like Phoenix. Like we saw all the Gibbs Toyotas essentially dominate last week on Phoenix. We could see 3 or 4 dominators in this race just because it's so long. Strategy often comes into play. We don't know how tires are going to be here. So you could take 0 or 2 or 4 potentially and have some strategy there. The groove is going to change, which means there will be comers and goers, and certain drivers will like certain aspects. So I could see a lot of dominators. So that's why I think I just want those guys that are consistently good here. And you name 4 of them, and I'm going to throw in Elliott and maybe Keselowski as well. Not from a starting position spot, just like Blaney's going to be the early dominator most likely. He has Josh Berry on his outside. I think that's good for him because I don't see Josh Berry taking the lead. And he'll have Hamlin behind him. And I think Blaney's going to lead the early laps. It'll give a chance for a guy like Bell or a Larson to move forward. And then, maybe the second dominator will be either Bell, Larson, or Hamlin. And then the third dominator will be any of those guys plus, Elliott or Keselowski type thing.
Mm-hmm. So best value play of the day here was a question by Brian. Definitely Hocevar. I also really like Todd Gilliland down there. Starting 24th, he has good finishes here.
He's a super awesome tournament play.
Yes. So
Todd Gilliland is an awesome tournament play. Don't play him in cash game lineups, but he's an awesome tournament play.
What do you think of? See, like to me, if you can get Blaney, Chastain, Hocevar, Bell, Gilliland, you can wrap it up with Chase Elliott, Todd Gibbs. Like you have so many ways that you can do this. You can grab Bubba Wallace here. And if you go down to Bubba Wallace, you can get off a Gill and get up to someone like maybe an Austin Dillon if you wanted to, starting 31st. He has a decent track record here, but definitely like the upside of Gill in tournaments. But are you going? Do you think, if you're starting Blaney, Chastain, Hocevar, do you think you have to go and grab at least one of Bell, Larson, or Hamlin, or do you think a decent lineup could still be made, coming down here in this $9,000 range, a little bit lower, because we got Keselowski down here, we got Reddick. Like it's not that difficult to make a lineup that has
Here's
a bunch of.
Here's the thing: you
guys.
need dominators. There's 500 laps.
Yep.
You need dominators, multiple. So I don't even, necessarily think you have to play Chastain in a lineup because. Yeah, Chastain could, if he finishes 10th, get you a bunch of points, but you could get that same bunch of points by having a guy lead 150 laps.
Right.
So it's a really interesting slate where we do have chalk in the back, but it may be the week where you don't necessarily have to play the chalk in the back. So while I love Chastain, it's also a week where if we have 3 dominators that lead 150 laps each, Chastain may just not end up in the optimal lineup even if he finishes 8th or something, weird fucking slate. Weird slate. Is.
And we're so trained to go and focus on place differential with DFS, but Bristol is so different. You make a good point there, because here's the thing: if you do want to go against the place differential and you'd rather get up and grab those dominator points instead of Chastain, one, if he has an issue, that's going to take out a bunch of people. He's probably going to be the highest owned driver on this slate, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get up to the top 5, that if he just runs 12th, he's probably not going to get optimal starting, in the back. What's so funny?
My cat is just hilarious. He's like smashing his face on the microphone.
Oh. Chastain, by the way, Andrew, Chastain 25-1 on Bet365. They also offer a 30% profit boost, so you can get pretty good odds on Chastain if you do want to bet him. And this, we talk about this on Stacking Denny's quite often as well. This could be a good week to leverage, have a bet on Chastain, maybe top 5 to win, and then
Go
go off
underweight
of
on
him
him
on
in
DF.
DF.
Yeah, go off
Yeah.
on DFS. So
The
you're
natural hedge, I call
yeah,
it.
you're playing both sides. Yeah. Here's a question: Matt Gilliland or Haley?
Gilliland.
Yeah,
I don't want anything to do with Haley here.
me neither. Unless I'm completely. I did do a lineup that had him in it, just hoping for attrition, because that's the only way he's getting up there.
Yeah.
Like that Rick Ware
But
car isn't good.
and
But if
and
you
like
can,
if you look at the past 5 years, JJ Yaley's been in the optimal twice at Bristol Concrete. And it's because you get all these high dollar guys that are leading a bunch of laps and then it's like, well, I have to have a punt in there. But to me, if you have a punt in there, 5,200 versus 5,700 really isn't that different unless the high dollar guys are just like the high dollar guys. But
right.
Blaney at 10.5 is $1,000 cheaper than Larson. So it's not inconceivable that, a guy like Todd Gilliland could end up in the optimal lineup this week with 3 high dollar dominators. I don't think it necessarily has to be Haley that you're punting with. I think you could punt with a Todd Gilliland. You could punt with a Carson Hocevar. You could punt with a Priest or a potentially a Nemechek or an Allmendinger. And I think Allmendinger is going to be relatively chalky. So great pivots off Allmendinger is a John Hunter Nemechek, is maybe a Ryan Priest. I think we're all like, if I'm looking at this 6,000 and below tier, like we're all, or let's say 6,100 because Allmendinger is there. Everybody's gonna like Allmendinger. Everybody's gonna like Hocevar. And I think the natural pivot will be John Hunter Nemechek. So Priest and Gilliland end up being kind of low owned. Priest is the bigger air quote name and the air quote better equipment. So I think Gilliland is probably the best play down here. But I do like Priest and JHN as well as pivots off of chalky Allmendinger and Hocevar.
Yeah, I almost wrote up Priest this week. Top 15 here last year.
Yeah.
I like Priest. I do.
Like
and
Priest.
I really like Noah Gragson this week at 67. I think he's going to get a bump in ownership just because of how he's been running, but that car looked pretty solid in practice.
Yeah, he'll get a bump in ownership. Stenhouse always gets a bump in ownership because he's Stenhouse at Bristol.
Yeah.
Austin Dillon starts 31st. Like, I just think Priest is going to be pretty low owned, and I think Gilliland's going to be really low owned. So I think those are the two, like, and John Hunter Nemechek. I like Priest, JHN, and Gilliland. Like, I think those are great plays down there for tournaments, not obviously for cash games, but I think for tournament pivots, you put one of those in a relatively chalky lineup, and I think you got a nice lineup.
One guy that's down here, haven't really talked about him. We were both high on him at Las Vegas. Burned us on lap 4. Zane Smith. You have any interest in Zane Smith there starting 16th?
No, honestly, like I do like Zane Smith as a driver, and I do like the way Harrison Burton looked in Group B practice, I guess, sort of a little bit, but they're both just starting too far ahead. They would have to finish there at least, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, the only way,
or Daniel Hemrick, and same thing. I don't actually even like Daniel Hemrick as a driver, so.
Yeah, I have a personal thing against Daniel Hemrick. I rarely. It's a surprise if I'm putting him in lineups.
Yep.
I have to really like him to get him in.
I was very happy to get him out of the way early on our 36 for 36.
Yeah. So I'm gonna lock this lineup in. What do you think about it? Hamlin, Blaney, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, Hocevar, Gilliland.
I like it. I think it's great. I would lock it in. You got 4 relatively big names there, which I think is awesome. You've got 3 potential dominators plus Chastain, and you've got 2 great, cheap options starting in the back. I think that's a fantastic lineup.
Yeah, and
that might be my favorite lineup I've seen.
Right, and
yeah,
the thing is, you can come off of this, grab instead of Hamlin and go Bell.
I was gonna say, yeah, instead of Hamlin, you could go Brad Keselowski, and I'd still like that lineup, and you'd have a whole bunch of money to work with. So, like, if you duplicated that lineup, you go away from Hamlin and you go on to, somebody else, somebody cheaper, whether it be Keselowski or I guess Chastain's already there. Yeah, like if you come off of Hamlin, you save 2,000 going down to Keselowski, then you can go up 2,000 from either Gilliland or Hocevar, so you can get up to like 6,800, 6,700. You could get a Gragson or a Stenhouse in there.
Kez, Blaney, Elliott, Chastain, Bubba, Todd Gilliland.
You can get all the way up to Bubba. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, obviously, a lineup like this, you really need Blaney and Elliott to be the early dominators, and then you're hoping Keselowski gets up there. But Bubba, I mean,
But this is one you could.
I don't
This
know.
is a lineup you could. This is a lineup you could replicate, and you could go instead of Bubba, you could go Bowman, who's starting 29th. You could go Briscoe, who's starting 6th. You could go Jones. You could go Suarez. You could go. I wouldn't say McDowell. You could go Gregson. You could go Stenhouse, and feel good about all those lineups when you pivot off of Bubba.
So, do you like Bubba this week? Because I guess I'm pretty high on Bubba this week.
Yeah, I do like Bubba. I just obviously he's starting 9th, so it's a spot where he's gonna have to finish well, and Bubba sometimes has trouble finishing well when he has a good car. Phoenix last week, for example, and then sometimes he finishes great and gets a lot out of the car when he doesn't have as good of a car. So he's a wide range of outcomes type driver for me. So I do like Bubba. I think he'll be pretty low owned, especially starting 9th. So yeah, I like that lineup as well. And like I said, you could drop Bubba off that lineup and play like the next 4 or 5 or 6 drivers below him with a couple minor exceptions.
Yeah, obviously you have Bowman there starting 29th place differential. He's decent. He's pretty good at Bristol, honestly. He should be about a top 15 car. Eric Jones, he was legitimately top 10 here last fall. He does have better equipment this year. No reason why he can't run top 10. What about a guy like Daniel Suarez? You think he's decent?
Yeah. Suarez is decent. I mean, he starts 28th, right? We all expect Daniel Suarez to be a 20th place car neighborhood with a little bit more upside and a little bit more downside than 20th. So can he get in the optimal lineup? Absolutely. Do I love him here? No.
Briscoe as a Dominator.
Possible. Certainly possible. Briscoe is this year's Chris Buescher, Chris Bell. I don't know. All these CB guys. Chase Briscoe is this year's Chris Buescher, I think. And when we look at 2022 and how, Buescher was 125-1 and won the race, I think Briscoe is in a similar boat here. Good practice times, relatively speaking, good starting spot, obviously. And this is a good track for him. So why not? Yeah, why not? I don't think he's, high on my list of likely dominators. I think we named 6 before him, but you could throw him in that next tier of dominators after those 6 or so.
I think he's one of those guys. If he does get up there and dominate, I'm gonna be like, it's a little surprising, but I'm not super surprised. Especially Briscoe and that whole 14 team, like they have more speed this year by a wide margin than they did last year, especially with this intermediate package. So it's starting 6th. I don't love it. I'm personally not gonna have much Briscoe, especially any lineups that I'm hand building. I don't like Briscoe enough this week to do it, but I don't hate it, if you're doing the 150 max.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate it. He's not a guy I would jump to put in my lineups. And so, if he ends up in the optimal, I probably won't or wouldn't have a great day, but at the same time, I get it. I get why he has the upside he does. And my model is projecting his optimal at 14% and only 11% owned. So this is a potential Chase Briscoe leverage spot if you want to play him 15%, and you'll be above weight to the field, I think, and closer to the optimal.
Here's a question, shifting a little bit more. It's a couple questions, and it deals with one team. Let me find it. Thoughts on Kyle Busch today and overall RCR?
He's Kyle Busch here. He's good. He's good here. He'll outperform his equipment. Obviously, he's outperforming Austin Dillon. I just don't love the upside because he hasn't shown the speed. He hasn't shown the upside in A, the next gen car, B, in the RCR car here. see in practice. It's just obviously he can get it done. It's just, will he get it done? His 5-lap average in Group A, which had the Blaney, Bubba, Ross group, that's all we can really go off of is his 5-lap average in that group. And he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in his own group. So if you think, well, Group B, maybe they had 5 or 6 or 7 good cars, he's probably somewhere in the back half of the top 10 or in the teens as far as his speed.
Yeah.
And
Austin Dillon.
Who was worse than that? Chris Buescher. Like, I can't.
You hate Chris Buescher today.
I do. I hate Chris Buescher today.
I need to clip this, and I don't like him in DFS because I can't get there with that $9,800 price tag.
I agree.
But I still think he's going to be solid today. So we'll have to do like a little side bet or something.
I still think Ty Gibbs is going to be solid today. Like, I am totally the opposite of you on that Gibbs Buescher bet, which is, it's good because not often we like super disagree or anything like that.
Right. Sticking with RCR. What do you think about Austin Dillon down there? $6,300. He starts 31st. He's been a top 20 driver at Bristol for much of his career. Do you trust him this week, though, with how just absolutely garbage he's been this season?
I was going to say, speaking of bad bets, my Dillon over LaJoy bet is not looking good. Speaking of bad bets, definitely not feeling good about that one. No, I'm not really high on Austin Dillon today, which is probably how he's going to survive all the chaos and finish 18th and end up in the optimal or something dumb like that.
I'm by no means, completely fading him.
Yeah.
I like so many other drivers priced below him, which gives me more flexibility with the rest of my lineup.
Yeah.
I like Allmendinger better. I like Priest better. I like Hocevar better. I like Gilliland better. Like, overall, I like so many other drivers better that are cheaper. So I'm probably going to need to manually adjust how much Austin Dillon I have to have more, but it's not one of those guys where I'm going to have a significant amount of ownership today, despite, the place differential and his ability to luck into shit, even though he's, he does have a lot of bad luck this season so far.
Yeah, exactly. It's he'll like you said, because we can drop down to these other guys, he probably won't be as high owned as I would ordinarily think he would be. So he does end up becoming a viable play just because his ownership won't be through the roof.
Right. Give me one guy to bet to win today.
The question is, do you want it to be based off value or who I think is going to win? Because those are different answers.
I would give both then.
Well, Blaney is who I think is going to win, but I don't think you can bet him really at 4.5 to 1 because my models got him at around 6 to 1 or something. So yeah, there's that. I do think, depending on what price is out there on Chase Elliott, he's pretty interesting.
I am very happy that I grabbed that Caesars boost on Elliott and got him 40 to 1 earlier this week.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And he's one guy that, like, I'm trying to figure out how can I work him into my betting card because I don't have him and I want him. So my model has him plus 1275 is fair. You can get 13 to 1 at BetMGM. And then, like I said, at the top, Ross Chastain, if you can get him 20 to 1 or longer. So
yeah,
it depends on what you mean when you say one guy to bet. Do you want value or who do I think is going to win? Because those are different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Bill and Keselowski, honestly, for me, is a value at 22 to 1 at BetMGM.
Yeah, Bill said Chastain's 18 to 1 on DK Sportsbook. If you open up 365, he's 25 to 1. So, as always, shop around. Make sure
22 to 1 at BetMGM for Chastain. So 25 to 1 at Bet Rivers. So always shop around. I know I'm gonna plug a little Action Network here, but we have our bet center at actionnetwork.com/NASCAR, where you can just look at all of the lines at once. Make sure you set your state to the state you're in, and we'll have a dashboard that shows all the books in your state and what the current odds are. And so that's why I can see, just look over here and Keselowski's 22-1 at BetMGM. He's 20-1 at Caesars. He's 22 at DraftKings. He's 18 at PointsBet. He's whatever at BetRivers. So like, go over to actionnetwork.com/NASCAR, and we have a dashboard right there that'll let you compare all the lines in your state.
Mm-hmm. Getting this question quite a bit. Well, first off, does Gibbs have to go to the rear for fixing damage? I don't think so.
Nope.
The only way that they were going to go to the rear is if they had a steering issue and they had to fix it, and I haven't seen anything this morning where they did. So unless something breaks, we still have.
No, he ran a good qualifying lap. They fixed cosmetic damage, which is different. You're allowed to do that. That's not an unapproved adjustment. And they also fixed a lot of that before qualifying even started, right? Because he scraped the wall lap 1 of practice, lap 2 of practice. And they were concerned about the steering, but then they realized, no, that was just the track conditions. Chase Elliott had the same air quote steering issues that Ty Gibbs had, and it was just the weirdness with the track. So, yeah, I think Ty Gibbs is going to be just fine.
Saw a question up here about. Well, we got a few about McDowell. Can McDowell lead laps? I don't think McDowell leads today.
No,
I don't mind betting him for top 10. I think he can legitimately challenge for a top 10 once again. But I have no interest in him at $6,800 starting 7th. I'd much rather go Gregson. I'd much rather go a completely different. I don't think McDowell can lead today. And I do think he can challenge for a top 10, but it's nowhere near a guarantee. So the fact that his laps led potential is low, he's starting high, and it's not guaranteed he's going to finish there. I don't really like McDowell today.
Completely agree with you. So
yeah,
one spot where we're definitely on the same page.
Yep. So here's a good one. If you don't go Blaney in your DFS lineup today, do you have to go 2 of Larson, Hamlin, Bell? To me, if you're not going Blaney, I think you're automatically plugging Hamlin in there, because if you don't think, if you're going against Blaney, you're thinking he's not early leader, so it's going to be Hamlin.
I think it could be Elliott
or Elliott. I guess they're both right there.
I think it could be Elliott, honestly. Like, I don't think you have to go Hamlin or Bell or whoever. I don't even know if Hamlin loves his car. He qualified well, but just from the interviews I saw with him, he was a little, I don't really know. Hell, it could be Logano. I have no idea, man. This slate terrifies me, and I think it's a great week to, downsize your volume.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, betting volume, DFS volume. Honestly, I think it's a great week to downsize your volume because this slate absolutely terrifies me. I don't have a good read for who's good because of what we saw in practice. We have no idea who's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so all we can do is give our best guesses, and that's the thing. It's our best guesses. They're guesstimates. They're educated guesses, but they're certainly less informed than maybe Phoenix last week, for example,
right,
where we
that's what I was just going to go to.
Nice, clean, wonderful practice times to look at. I don't love this slate. I just don't in general. But I don't see why it couldn't be a Joey Logano leading or a Chase Elliott leading, or maybe Josh Berry takes the lead on the start. I have no idea. Remember, like last week, no offense, like you kind of dismissed Ty Gibbs in second. I'm like, he's going to lead the early laps. And
yeah.
Guess who led the early laps? It was Ty Gibbs.
I shit the bed on that one.
It's one of those things where I felt more confident last week than I do this week.
Yeah, and it's, I think I talked about this on Stacking Denny's. If not, I talked about it on the live stream last week, where I definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I have a tendency, I have a good week. I get the confidence boost comes in, and it was on Stacking Denny's this week.
Yeah,
confidence boost comes in, and I typically get overconfident for the next race. That is not the case at all. Like I had a great week at Phoenix.
Yeah,
the only reason I'm putting lineups together here is because we're doing this live stream. That's the only reason I'm doing these lineups.
Yeah.
I really have no interest in doing DFS today, and I have 3 bets. That's it, which is very low for me. So I know we keep saying like we're shitting on this slate forever, but that's just where we're at and what to expect today. To me, this is a great race to watch, learn, and move on because I'm I'm more interested in not potentially being wrong and enjoying the race than being wrong and not
Yeah.
enjoying the race.
And
So
honestly, I'm excited for the race. I think it's going to be a great
yeah,
race. I think it's going to be fun. I do have, even though people are upset about the resin or tires and, PP on the tires is what Denny Hamlin said or whatever. Like, I'm excited for the race. I think it's going to be interesting. And like you said, we're going to learn a lot. So that's good. That's going to be awesome. But as far as a DFS thing, man, I'm glad I got all my bets in early because since I have seen practice and qualifying, it's just made me more confused.
yes.
So yeah, and nice
Not to
nice
mention
what you have here up on the screen.
yeah. So Gibbs, no changes to steering rack. He does not lose his starting position. It's fine.
Cool.
It's let's go to Luck of the Irish Paul Menard pick of the week today. Did you make a Paul Menard pick of the week? I honestly haven't looked at your.
I haven't even written my article yet.
Okay.
Last night I was like, I'm gonna sleep on it, wake up, write my article in the morning, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna do a show, and I was like, hey, do you want me to join? So
Right.
that's where we are. I'm trying to write it up as we do the show, but it's not really happening. So that's right. If I had to make a Paul Menard pick of the week, I think I would make it Todd Gilliland. Maybe Ryan Preece.
I'm loving.
Or maybe
I'm
John
loving.
Hunter. Maybe John Hunter Nemechek. One of those three.
Yeah, I'm loving Gilliland this week. I know I'm going to end up with a bunch of him as I normally do.
Yep.
I think it's a perfect position to be overweight on Gilliland because coming into this race weekend, I looked at the driver lineup and the salaries, and I'm like, Gilliland's going to be the chalk.
We haven't talked enough.
Guy.
We haven't talked enough about Noah Gragson though. Like Noah Gragson's a great tournament play. He is a great tournament play. The more I look at it, like as I'm thinking about writing this piece, like I'm putting Noah Gragson in my tournament picks. 100% he will be in my tournament picks if and when I get if I get this article done. This free article done.
Right. I'm pulling up my so I was gonna write up Gregson. I did not at the by the time I did get my lineup my article submitted this morning, but I will note that Gregson is in my optimal projected.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. I love Gregson today. He's a guy that he doesn't give a shit what the track conditions are. He'll figure it out, He'll figure it out. He shit the bed last year. He did terrible last year, but I think a lot of it was I'm big time in the Cup Series now. I can do whatever I want. I think he took his rookie stripes for sure, and I think he's learned a lot from it. And he's obviously kicked ass to start the year.
This is my optimal projected, and I don't love it. There's a few other ways I like to go here. I like the decent base of it, but I like the Gregson in it. I'm not a fan of Buescher. Like you get two Dominators here, in my opinion, unless Buescher gets up there, and we know your opinion on Buescher. You don't think he's going to get up there and dominate. So you're relying on Blaney and Elliott here to dominate, and then hopefully, Chastain gets up there and does something later. But just messing around with this one, if you come off of Hocevar, grab Gilliland, it does let you get up to Kyle Busch, which I like. This is still though, I don't love it,
Yeah.
Still need that. I'm trying to find I need to pull up the optimizer and see what lineups I do like with Gregson in it. Because it is, it's a tough price to fit in there.
My ceiling and my median point optimizer lineup are different. So if I go by ceiling, the optimal lineup based off of my model for ceiling is Blaney, Larson, Elliott, Hocevar, Allmendinger, and Bowman.
Ooh.
Right, so you get 3 Dominators in there, and then a bunch of cheap place differential.
And you
But
could
I
get
don't
off of Bowman and go to Bubba if you wanted a potential 4th Dominator.
exactly like, or you could, instead of Allmendinger, you could drop down to Gilliland, like we said, and go up even from Bubba to somebody even higher, right? So like my optimizer, if you optimize on ceiling, I like it a lot better than optimizing on just projected points, because we're going for ceiling. I mean, that's what you're doing in a tournament. You're going for ceiling.
What do you think about this? Blaney, Larson, Elliott, Gibbs.
Oh, you are speaking to me right there with that lineup.
And this
That
could all
is
you
a
could get
Rotodoc lineup right there.
you could get off the Hocevar chalk here and grab Priest too.
Oh, dude. You are pulling at the Rotodoc heartstrings here, man.
Because as crazy as it sounds, I think Larson's going to be the lowest owned of these guys that can actually win. Because he's so high
Let
priced.
me see what my ownership says.
But he starts 10th and he's so fucking good at Bristol. Like,
I know. He could be. I have him the highest projected owned of those, but oh no, I was looking at perfect percent. Yeah, I still have him the highest projected ownership of the 3, but they are, Blaney and Larson are pretty close. Chase Elliott, I think, will be the lowest owned of those 3. I just think people are sour on Elliott overall, just because he hasn't been amazing for like a year now.
I'm locking this lineup in, by the way.
I love it. I love it, dude. Let's go.
You like Priest over Hocevar? I mean, definitely for
as a tournament pivot, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Hocevar and Priest have similar upside at Bristol. Personally, I like Hocevar more. I think he's more talented than Priest, but Priest has gotten results here. I think Hocevar is more mistake prone, which is a reason you could pivot off him and go to Priest.
You could honestly go, if you didn't want to go Gilliland, you could go Hocevar if you did want to get Hocevar in this lineup.
What about, okay, so this is Larson, Blaney, Elliott. I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm going to go Gregson as my 4th, because, I'm all about the Gregson right now.
Here,
You can grab whatever punt play.
Yeah. Let me save this and we'll do this. Man, this thing's taking, I don't know why it's taking so long to load.
Oh, man. Oh, okay.
Okay, now what'd you say here?
So good. So Larson, Blaney, Elliott, the same 3. Then Gregson. You can punt with whoever you want, whether it's Gilliland, Hocevar, Priest. I personally put in Gilliland just to get the most salary available to me. And then look, you can get a Eric Jones, a Chase Briscoe, a Daniel Suarez, a Ricky Stenhouse. Like, Chase Briscoe is not going to be that high owned. Eric Jones may be the Paul Menard pick of the week, now that I think about it. Like, who's going to be on Eric Jones?
Nobody.
We haven't mentioned.
And like I said, we talked about him a little bit before. He was legitimately top 10 here last year in Chevy Legacy Motor Club garbage.
Yeah.
I like it.
Look at that. Davey Bama says Jones for Paul Menard pick of the week. I love it. In chat. There it is.
Yep.
I love it.
Oops. Click on the wrong one. Yeah. Jones for Paul Menard pick of the week.
It's Dr. Pepper. It's all good, people. had my one Tecate.
Yeah. Sean says, feeling good about my Blaney and Elliott early week bets. Yeah, good luck to you as well. I mean, I know if you grabbed Elliott early, I know you got him probably at 20 or longer.
I got Blaney at 16. I am feeling amazing about that.
That's good. Byron 18-1 thoughts. Feels like insane value. He's never led a lap here.
Exactly. That's the thing I posted in. No, not post. I talked about on Green Dot Daily, Action Network, our daily show on Friday. I took Blaney over Byron head to head on Friday. And I was like, Blaney has dominated here 6 times out of his 9 races with Team Penske. Byron has never led a lap here.
I think Byron's a fringe top 5 guy today, maybe, but he hasn't shown that he has what it takes to get
Can
done at
he
Bristol.
win here? Sure. If you get the right strategy, the right circumstances, I think Byron can win, but it requires the right strategy and the right circumstances. He's not going to be a guy that goes out and leads because he's the fastest.
Right. That's a good, yeah. This one's similar to what we just did. How do you feel about Larson, Elliott, Blaney, Suarez, Gregson, Gillen? Same one. We just put Jones in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Jones there, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to go Gilliland. We could go Hocevar because Jones is such a probably low owned type play. The one thing I will say is we have not made many Ross or Busher lineups.
Yeah, the first 3 were all Ross, but no, we don't have a single Busher lineup, which I know we need to get to. Same with like Keselowski, Reddick. Like, am I crazy for loving Reddick this week?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I liked him coming into the week. He's never been amazing here. And I know TV talked about his long run speed, but he was like the only car that made a long run in his group. So like whatever, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I don't know what to make of Reddick today. I don't know what to make of anybody today. Like let's look at overall lap times. Brad Keselowski, his overall lap average in practice was 16.2, and Reddick was 16 and a third. Now, how many laps did they each make? Well, Keselowski ran 31. Reddick ran 34. So about the same number of laps, and Reddick was 3 laps more and a little bit slower. Like, they're pretty neutral to me. Like, if you compare Keselowski to Reddick, I'd probably favor Keselowski a little bit because 3 laps isn't that much of a difference to where you should be 1.13 seconds slower per lap. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of going off of, okay, what group are you in? And then what was your overall time in the group? Because the top 18 drivers in overall lap average were all from group A. So it's literally group A had the fastest overall times. And then group B had the slowest overall times. So number 1 in overall lap average for group B was Chase Elliott, but he ran 2 fewer laps than Keselowski. Keselowski was second. Hocevar was third in overall lap average from group B. But Hocevar also ran 24 laps compared to Keselowski's 31, right? So that's not as good. You kind of have to mentally bump him down type thing. It's tough. This slate sucks, dude. It sucks.
What do you think of a lineup like this? Blaney, Reddick, Busher, Elliott, Gill, and Gregson.
Blaney, Reddick, Busher, Elliott. Yeah, I mean, it works. You just need Tyler Reddick to dominate, I think, and I don't think he dominates. Like, I really want 3 dominators in most of my builds. It doesn't mean you need 3 dominators, but 3 dominators feels the most correct. You can have there could be a 2 dominator race for sure today. There could be a 4 dominator race today. But Reddick certainly obviously has to have a really good finish, and I'm not confident he will.
Shit, I don't know what I was going to do there. I think it's hard. I think it's really hard to fit in Busher this week. I feel like
both Busher and Reddick.
Yeah, I'm going to have a shit ton of Chase Elliott today. Yeah, so here's a good question. If you run Busher, Ross, Hocevar for place differential, then you basically need the last 3 to have the dominator. Like, those are your dominators. I don't know if you can get 3 dominators remaining with that.
I mean, let's say you punt with Gillen and Priest, right? Like, you can't. You don't need to. But you need to punt with 1 driver. So if you have Hocevar, Chastain, Busher, you need to punt, let's say Gillen, he's the cheapest. Then you have an average of 10,000. Well,
Kez and Bell.
10,100. I would say Blaney and Keselowski, but yeah.
Oh shit, yeah, I am. Yeah. I skip Blaney. See, that's where
But here's the thing. You don't necessarily have to do that. You could go, what if you go Hosvar, Chastain, Buescher, Elliott, Blaney, Gregson.
And your two dominators are just going to be Blaney and Elliott, though.
Yeah, but you, like you said, place differential with Buescher and Chastain.
Yeah.
Might make up for it. Especially if it's just a 2 dominator race. I don't think it will be, but there's a non-zero chance it's just a 2 dominator race.
Right.
I don't love it. But it's a viable construction.
Who do you think is most likely to try and get stage? I have no idea. That is just another aspect of it that I don't even want to think about.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's another fucking part of this race that's going to come into play.
Hopefully Hosvar, because I picked him for 36 for 36. Mm-hmm. I want those stage points.
Who did we bet our head-to-head? Hocevar over
Barry.
Could not start off on a worse
exactly
leg there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I need to stop betting head-to-heads at the beginning of the week because shit like this happened at Phoenix too. I think it was LaJoy or someone over LaJoy. So here's a good one. What cash game lineup? What are you landing on? Blaney. I think you're starting Blaney, Chastain.
Probably the lineup I just made, other than Elliott and Gregson, right? So Hosvar, Chastain, Buescher, Blaney.
Hosvar, yeah. And then what was the rest of it?
Yeah, it becomes tough at this point. Who do you can't really fit anybody else in. Yeah, so you have to scrap that somewhere.
Scrap what?
I don't know. You have to scrap either, I think, Buescher or Chastain. Like, you might just have to scrap Buescher.
To me, I'm scrapping Buescher this week. The 9,800 just isn't there for me.
I agree.
Like, I'd much rather go Chastain.
I agree. Yeah, cash games this week is ugly.
It is. Part of me thinks you need to go like a Bell. But that's not a ton of fun either.
I still like Elliott, man. 8,300 for a guy who can dominate the race. Right.
I mean, you can go Elliott and Bell and still get a Priest.
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
If you wanted to roll Gilliland in, see, I'm landing on this build for the most. This was the first build that I put in. If you wanted to go Gilliland, then you have your choice between Bell and Elliott, or Bell and Hamlin.
I don't love Gilliland for cash though. Like tournaments, yeah. Like I'd rather.
I'm not a cash player, so I'm purely tournament brain. Because I know you'd rather get up to Allmendinger probably for cash.
Allmendinger, Stenhouse.
Yeah.
Something like that. Dude, cash games this week sucks. How about just don't play cash games?
I think you might need to go Gilliland in cash.
Priest
or Gilliland.
Priest, Bell.
Which is terrifying if you're relying on Priest and Gilliland in your cash lineup.
Oh, man.
To me, cash it goes here. I think you roll. To me, this is the lineup for cash, and then you pick between Priest and Gilliland. But again, I am not a cash game player. I've never played cash games.
I'm not quite there with Bell. Like, for whatever reason, I'm not there.
He's been so good in the next gen car here.
He did have the second best overall lap speed in practice for Group A.
330 laps led over the last 2 Bristol races for him.
No, I mean, I know how good he's been at Bristol in the next gen car.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he wasn't leaping off the charts in practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was fine. But like his 5-lap average was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th best.
Third and
they all yeah, but Ross doesn't count, right? Like Ross was better than him in 15 lap if we count that. Like he was 4th in 15 lap average.
Mm-hmm.
And there were only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars essentially that made a real 5 cars that made a real 6, John Hunter, Nemechek, and Noah Gragson. Zane, I guess. But like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 8 cars, he was 4th. And then if you say, well, Ross would have had a faster one, he was 5th out of 9 real cars that made a 15-lap run in his group. Or 4th out of 9 or whatever. Like it's not great. It's not great to me.
And one thing to note about Bell, and I know I mentioned this last week and I was completely wrong. He tends to practice better than he races. So obviously he had the fucking rocket ship last week. But when he isn't the fastest car in practice, you can typically take him down a couple spots. That's just how he's been his career. Like he's always practiced better. You just have those guys that practice better than they race and the guys that race better than they practice, or vice versa.
Harvick was a race better than practice guy always.
Absolutely. So when you knew that when he looked good in practice, you knew Harvick had a great car.
Yeah.
I put this one in earlier. Blaney, Chastain, Keselowski, Elliott, Bubba, Hocevar. I still love it. And even going Gilliland over Hocevar.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I mean, and you can hear it in our voices. Like we don't love this slate. We're debating with ourselves. Like, what do we do? What do we think of Bell? What do we think of this driver, that driver? It's not a fun slate.
Yeah, typically a lot of these races, I go in and I'm like, this lineup makes sense. This lineup makes sense, and this is your build, and you can go off of it. This isn't happening this week at all. Like, I like my very first lineup that I did: the Blaney, Chastain, Hamlin, Elliott, Hocevar, Gilliland. I like that. But other than that, nothing else is like popping to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't need Bell and Cash. Busher there. I don't think I'm running Busher and Cash.
Yeah, I don't see why. Like, I would rather have Bell and Cash than Busher. You're going to I think people thinking about cash games are thinking about it wrong because there's 500 laps. You're still going to need multiple dominators to win a cash game lineup. And Busher did not look good in practice. If you're playing Busher and Cash, I think you're doing it wrong. Busher does not have, he has a floor, but you're going to need ceiling in cash games simply because it's Bristol. If this was a 200 lap race, sure, Busher and Cash makes a ton of sense. But 500 laps is a whole hell of a lot more Dominator points that are available.
Mm-hmm.
You need multiple Dominators to cash in cash games at Bristol.
There's a question up here. Risky Kyle Busch lineup. Playing around with it here. I don't hate this. Blaney, Chastain, Elliott, Kyle Busch, Gregson, Hocevar.
Yeah, I like that. That's fun. It's risky. It's risky.
It's very risky.
But if Kyle Busch is, it's a great lineup. We're ended up on a lot of Elliott. I will say that he's so enticing at that price tag.
The more, and I was a little shocked that he kept getting thrown in. Like now I'm really questioning. Like my ownership projection for him is probably way too low.
I think mine is too.
Oh man. Hard to read into practice speeds, but one team that liked their lap times was Brad Keselowski, Group B, when the track was messy.
Yeah, I said, I thought Brad may have arguably been the best in Group B, along with Elliott. Oh no,
What?
Jordan!
What?
You can parlay top 10s on DraftKings.
Uh-oh. When did they let that happen?
Oh, baby.
Are we finally getting it back?
I wonder if they're severely nuking the odds. Let me find two guys that are like basically even money. So honestly, it's not that bad. They're not taking any juice out of them, really.
Who did you just randomly stumble on this, or did someone let you know?
Action Network Discord, let me know.
Oh my god.
So when is Talladega?
Right?
No, top 10 parlay is not Bristol's not the spot to build a top 10 parlay.
No. It's just and nobody tell DraftKings that they opened it back up.
I know, right? What the fuck? Save this for Talladega.
Yeah. That's fun. Let's go. Time to build a top 10 parlay. Nope. Yeah. Busher have a higher ownership based just on place differential. I agree. I think Brad's a better option at a better price.
I agree.
Keselowski's underpriced this week at 9,200 for how he performs at Bristol.
I agree. I love Keselowski today. I really do. My model going into the week was much higher on Keselowski than Busher as well, and it kind of bared itself out in practice.
Trying to find a. So like I think this is the lineup where I threw Justin Haley in there because I wanted to get Bell. I wanted to go Bell, Blaney, Kez, Elliott, Hocevar, Haley. There was one lineup earlier that I landed on Haley.
And I hate that I like Chase Elliott so much.
Same. It's we have yet to build a lineup without Chase Elliott in it today.
Feels like it.
It is. I'm keeping track.
Oh man.
I'm actually gonna put this lineup in with Haley in it, even though I hate Haley. Yeah, so Keselowski is definitely a very good play this week.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question. that I want to. McDowell for DFS? No. I don't hate the top Ford bet 14-1.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
But I'm always quite high on McDowell just overall.
He's good here. He was good here. McDowell's become one of those guys where we say he's good here, and it feels like every week we say he's good here.
Yeah, he is. And
Phoenix, he's good here.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, he's good here. Like, what are we doing?
And I think in the next gen here at Bristol, I want to say like he had a top 10 last fall, 11th in 2022. And it was like a legitimate top 10. He started 4th, driver rating of 108, finished 6th.
Oh my God.
What?
you want to build the most disgusting lineup of all time?
Yes.
Blaney, Elliott, Keselowski. I don't like this lineup, but I love it. I hate it and I love it. Blaney, Elliott, Keselowski. Gibbs.
I'm liking this.
Jones. Gregson.
Man.
What the fuck?
I honestly like it.
I hate it so much. I love it, but I hate it. Like, what the hell? Why? Why is it all these drivers I like that fit perfectly together?
I'm going to lock that one in.
It's so gross, dude.
It is. It's but it's one of the like is Gibbs' car okay? Yeah. They said his car's fine. They didn't have to do any major adjustments. They replaced the what? Not the toe link, but they replaced some part. He's fine. He doesn't have to go to the back. What do you think about that?
What do I think about
Blaney, Kez, Elliott, Gibbs, Bubba, Allmendinger.
Well, what I was thinking instead of we had Gibbs, Gregson, Jones. What if we did Hosvar, Chastain, Jones?
I still like going up to Bubba there.
Yeah, I mean Bubba's fine too. Like whatever. You know what I mean? But the only problem with going up to Bubba is you hit 50,000, which people are more inclined to do because it's more optimal.
You could also, if you didn't want to go Chastain, jump up with Reddick.
I don't like that. I would much rather have Chastain at a cheaper price than Reddick starting further back.
This could be the lineup that you grab Austin Dillon, but yeah.
Disgusting. Yeah, these Blaney, Keselowski, Elliott builds are intriguing. You can do a lot with that.
I know. Like, I almost want to just lock those 3 in the optimizer and say go.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually do that in the. Let's lock Blaney, lock Elliott, lock Keselowski, and ceiling.
Kyle Busch is growing on me for outrights and props. See, I'm the opposite. I was so high on him earlier this week. And I still like him. Nothing's giving me confidence in him.
Jordan, you're gonna like this.
What?
So I lock in Blaney, Elliott, Keselowski. The number one lineup you're not going to like as much. It's Hocevar, Chastain, Bowman. But the second one, Hocevar, Chastain, Bubba.
I like that.
I love that lineup.
Man, Blaney, Kez, Elliott might
And
be
then
the nuts today.
Hocevar, Chastain, Jones. Yeah, see? Hocevar, Chastain, Jones is the third optimal lineup with the three that we mentioned locked in.
This was the
Oh God, you want to know what the fourth most optimal is?
so this lineup right here, the Blaney, Kez, Elliott, Chastain, Hocevar, Bubba. That was the first Kez lineup that we put in today.
Jordan, we have to throw this one in that I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
This is the fourth most optimal. It's the same three. So Elliott, Keselowski, Blaney. Then it's Hamlin.
Ooh.
Wait, is it Hamlin? No, it's not Hamlin.
There's no way it's Hamlin.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong optimizer. No, it is Hamlin. Yeah, it's Hamlin. Hocevar, Gralla.
Ugh.
It works though. Like that's where we
It
talked
physically
about.
pains me.
That's where we talked about JJ Yaley being in the optimal 2 years out of the last 5 at Bristol.
Oh. And then you can make another lineup of this with Bell instead of Hamlin.
Isn't it painful?
Oh, and that's just that's the status of this slate.
I know. It's so bad, but if you think about it, it makes sense. There's a chance Justin Haley is in the optimal lineup with Hamlin and Hocevar or whatever as the 3. You can't even get the Hocevar there with Hamlin and Haley. So yeah, it would have to be Bell, Haley, and Hocevar.
Oh my God, Nick.
I have Gralla scoring 4 points. What? That makes no sense.
Yeah,
yeah. What do you have Gralla's projection for?
11.2.
Yeah, see, that's
4 points would be quite low.
My floor for Gralla is 10 points. Like 85% of the time he scores 10 or more points. And that's just because cars are going to crash out and he's not. And he'll move forward a large majority of the time. Even if he's the slowest one, there will still be 3 others minimum that, screw up, have issues. It's Bristol. There will be issues.
I'm checking. I hate that I'm doing this, but I want to see all the different options. Locking in. Damn it. Just a second. Blaney, Elliott, Kez, and who was that third one we just did? I'm losing my mind right now.
Blaney, Elliott, Kez, Haley.
Oh, Gralla.
Bell,
I want to see.
Oh,
Gralla.
Yeah. This
is gonna spit out some disgusting.
No, don't bet Gralla 20-1 for a top 10. That's not what we're talking about at all.
No,
God, that would be the worst.
No.
That's literally lighting money on fire.
No,
do not bet Gralla 20-1 top 10. What? No. What?
Yeah. So my top projected is that one with Hamlin and Hocevar.
My top 10 projection for Gralla is
Nick.
Yes, sir.
Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Kaz Gralla.
Blaney, Elliott, Keselowski. I heard Ty Gibbs.
Chastain Gibbs.
Gralla, yeah. Chastain. You don't even need Gralla. You can go up to Haley from there.
No, you couldn't. Oh, yeah, you could.
Chastain, Gibbs, Haley. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Do you like Haley that much more than Gralla? Because I feel like Gralla's going to be lower owned than Haley.
I agree. Gralla will be lower owned than Haley. But Gralla was...
Haley's finished 27th or better every race this season. Do you know that?
Haley's overall lap times. Now, I don't know how many laps he ran in practice. Let me go over here to how many laps he ran in practice. Justin Haley ran 32 laps in practice. I'm surprised about that because Blaney ran 36. And Justin Haley is 5th in overall lap time.
I want to say he has a good record here at Bristol.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Now, he didn't run nearly as many as, like, he obviously is going to drop if he runs towards like 50 laps like some of these other guys did. Kyle Busch ran 37 laps and Justin Haley ran 32. And Justin Haley was right ahead of Kyle Busch. You think if he runs 5 more laps, he's in that Kyle Busch range. Fuck, we're going to have to play Justin Haley, aren't we? I like the Haley. I like the Haley build. Yeah, I love that lineup actually.
If I'm rolling Haley, this is the build I'm going.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe jumping down to Bubba instead of Gibbs if I want to, or switching off of that. Oh man, this is so disgusting.
Yeah, my top 10 percentage on Kaz Gralla is 1%. Don't bet him 20-1 for a top 10.
Not as high on Ross as everybody else. If you had to go somewhere with someone else in that price range, I mean, we both love Elliott, but most of these lineups are going Elliott and Ross.
Yeah, I don't really. If you're not high on Chastain, then just. We just went Gibbs, like 8K versus 8,500.
Yeah.
Not really high on Reddick. I know you're probably higher on him than me, but I just don't see. Like, I would much rather have Chastain. How can you not be high on Chastain? He had just as good a car as Blaney.
That's what I was
better.
Ask too.
Maybe
like,
better.
How are we
How
not?
are you not high on Chastain? That makes no sense. Chastain arguably had the best car in practice. He was right there neck and neck with Blaney in 5 and 10 lap average. Then Ross Chastain came in and pitted. Then he went back out. So his 15 lap average, air quote, looks bad, but that's because his 15 lap average was from laps like 12 to 27 or something on tires. So he was on old worn tires on a track that was decaying and was half a second faster than Chris Buescher per lap, who did the exact same thing that Ross did. Like, I would million times rather have Ross at a cheaper price with better practice than Reddick, starting further back than Reddick. Like, it's not even a comparison for me.
I'm with you on it.
I love Ross today. He's just going to carve his way up through the field and legitimately could win this race.
Oh, there's a good one. If you could swap 36 for 36 after seeing qualifying, who would you take?
I love that question.
That is a very good question.
I would take Hocevar. I still like my Hocevar pick.
Even with him starting 35th?
Not worried about that. He looked good in practice for his group.
Yeah, so for those that didn't listen to Stacking Denny's this week, Nick has Hocevar. I have Gregson. Honestly, this might be a week that No. I was gonna say Zane Smith. Something keeps popping into my head about Zane Smith this week. I can't get it out of my head.
I wouldn't. I would just say if I was going to go with anybody different, I might. This might be the week I go Justin Haley or something like that. I don't like it, but I don't know. I think I would just stick with Hocevar. I saw somebody say Barry, but I'm Barry at Martinsville, like Priest at Martinsville, Barry at Martinsville, right? Like those are probably just going those two at Martinsville for the 2 Martinsville races.
I don't think you're going like a Briscoe either, which you used Briscoe last week at.
Yeah, I used Briscoe, so he's not eligible for me. But
no,
I like that question. It's a great question.
I didn't realize John Hunter Nemechek's practice times were that good. How did I overlook that?
He was 16th in Group A.
Overall?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, 3rd and 20 lap average, but not many people made it. So 20 lap average went Blaney, Grigson, Nemechek, Chastain, which, we talked about why Chastain's was like that.
Yeah, he was 10th in single lap, 16th in overall lap average. He ran 42 laps. I don't hate him. I'm not high on him.
Well, the way what I'm looking at is, 10th and 10 lap average. It makes me like Eric Jones even more, which, we've talked quite a bit about Jones.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Hamlin as a Dominator this week. Yeah. To me, he's the second most likely Dominator. Yeah, exactly. This is the comment of the week right here.
Yeah, I see that from Jason. I see the comment about being off Chastain to be contrarian as an option, but that to me is different than I'm not high on Ross. Like I'm high on Ross, but I can understand being off him to be contrarian. So I don't necessarily think that's a counter to what I was saying. I just think I don't necessarily think you meant it that way. It's just certainly I can understand being off Ross to be contrarian. 100% understand that. Ross has super upside today. Super upside.
Yeah, because he can. I mean, practice wise, he had a car that can win, and he starts dead last. You could not add. This is to me. This is
the worst possible track for that to happen, right? Like, at any other track, Ross Chastain is just like a mortal lock, but at Bristol, it is not a mortal lock. I should say any other non-drafting track.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's the second Bristol race in a row where we've had the situation. Like I said, Larson started 36th last year, but that's also Larson, and that was another reason I hated that slate because Larson starting dead last. Like it's not fun when we have these guys, especially when we have multiple guys starting in the back. It's just not fun at all. By the way, we're closing in on 900 viewers.
Holy shit, that's a lot. Let me.
Lowest you'd go for a punt play. I don't think anybody's off limits.
Yeah, I mean, we literally just made a Kaz Gralla build.
Yeah, we just talked about Gralla and Haley. I think we talked ourselves into liking them a little bit more than when we started this. I don't think anybody's off the table. I'm not gonna have Harrison Burton. I probably have like minimal percent of Zane Smith. But other than that, I could even Daniel Hemrick. If he can run top 20, he's a decent, but I don't like him. So if I'm going to take anybody out, it's going to be Harrison Burton, Zane Smith, and Hemrick in that order.
Yeah, Harrison Burton's like you don't play him essentially.
Right.
And then
as far as punt plays go.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just looking at like ceiling projection, Harrison Burton has the lowest ceiling projection for me on the whole slate.
So yeah, I don't. If you build a lineup where you can only afford Justin Haley or Kaz Grala, and you like the rest of that lineup, I am perfectly okay with that. I think you can. This price range here of 7,000 to 9,200. I'm going to include Keselowski in this range. There's so much value here.
Yep.
Because I definitely came into this thinking, you know, you need a Hamlin, you need a Bell, and I still think that those guys and or Larson are going to be the most likely dominators. But you can build a great build this week with a Keselowski, with an Elliott, Gibbs, Bubba, Chastain.
It's such a weird week, man. There's a lot of options. Like you said, you can go the Hamlin Bell route, and I think those are totally fine. But then we're talking maybe some of those Haley type things.
Right.
I wonder, like, if we did a non-Blaney lineup.
That's what you just read my mind. That's what I just started doing.
Like Larson, Hamlin. I don't think you need Larson, Hamlin, and Bell, but let's say Larson, Hamlin. Then where do you go?
We love Blaney to lead. I think Blaney's going to dominate. I think he's going to lead at least 100 laps today. Yes. So yeah, we do like Blaney's the dominator today. That car was so good, and not convinced on the Ford. You worried about the Fords at all, Nick?
What? Why would anybody not be convinced on the Fords? Blaney
maybe because of Phoenix
Blaney literally had the fastest. Blaney literally had the fastest 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25 lap averages in practice. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be convinced. And Keselowski in Group B had the second overall fast lap or overall average lap time in Group B, behind only Chase Elliott, but he also ran 2 more laps than Chase Elliott. So,
yeah, I think people might not be convinced on Fords because Toyota's domination last week, but completely different racetrack. Also, short track package versus intermediate. I don't think the Fords are that awful. There's no reason to not like the Fords. There's just not that many good ones. You got Blaney, you got Logano, but Logano is like an outside dominator. I don't think he's very likely. I like so many other guys up there to lead before him. And then you got Keselowski, and Buescher doesn't look great this week, as Nick said. Place differential play, but you know, outside of those guys, there's really not a good Ford. You know, because we talked about McDowell, he's not a dominator, and like Gregson and those guys can challenge for a top 10, but they're not dominators. So, that could be why people aren't. So we got Larson, Hamlin starting out this lineup, this non-Blaney lineup. You're obviously going to have to go down to. I'm going to throw Hocevar in there.
Yep.
Leaves you 71.66 average for the last 3.
Yeah, it certainly changes things. If you want to double punt, you could go Hocevar Gilliland and see what you're left with.
Leaves you 79.
Mm-hmm. You can go like Gibbs Wallace, or you could go high low like Stenhouse Keselowski.
I don't like that. I'd rather go Gibbs Wallace with this. But even like, I don't know. I don't know if I love that. Yeah, I'm assuming we're $100 short of getting Gregson Kez. Nope.
We are short.
Yep.
Getting
$100. Yep. Son of a bitch.
You can go Ross Jones.
Not awful. If you want to get off Hocevar, you could go Priest.
I mean, obviously you can go Elliott.
Instead of Chastain, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you could go Hamlin, Larson, Elliott, Chastain, Haley, and Harrison Burton or Gala. No,
What about
do that. Don't do that.
What about this one? Larson Hamlin, Elliott Bowman, Hocevar Gilliland.
Yeah, I don't mind that. We haven't had any Bowman exposure. I don't love Bowman here. Like Byron has never led a lap here.
Yeah. This is a good question. Fade Bell and Fantasy Racing World Championship, $27. You know, this lineup or this contest where you have to be number one, or this one might have two, but you have to be the one on the top. If I'm fading someone in these contests, these qualifier contests, it's probably going to be Chastain.
I would agree with
because
that.
he's probably going to push 60%.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think you fade Chastain in those. Yucky slate.
It's not a fun one.
That's correct. Byron's never led a lap here. We've already.
Yep, Byron has never led a lap here.
I talked about that on Friday on Green Dot Daily.
Does that surprise you? To me, when I looked up that stat, I was like, it's a little surprising.
Doesn't surprise me at all, actually. I've never thought of Byron as being great here.
Yeah.
Like even in Xfinity, finished 12th at Bristol. And in the Truck Series, he finished 4th, which, is the Truck Series.
Uh-huh. What do you think about this? Hamlin Bell, Elliott Gibbs, Hocevar Gilliland.
Hamlin Bell, Elliott, Hocevar, Gilliland, Gibbs. I like that a lot.
And you could also, if you wanted to punt, get off of Gilliland, go down to Haley, and then get Chastain instead of Gibbs.
Yeah, those are both viable for sure.
If you're trying to do a non-Blaney lineup, I like this.
I agree with that. I agree with both of those. I actually almost prefer the Haley Chastain just because while I do like Gilliland, there's every chance Gilliland finishes 32nd, right? Or 30,
right,
or 28th, just off speed. So in that case, the Chastain Haley build makes more sense.
Agreed. I'm going to put them both in though.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to hop off. I have SiriusXM NASCAR radio here in about 20 minutes with Pistol Pete Stoney.
Nice.
So,
did you get a article up on Fantasy Labs?
Not at all. So I also have to work on that.
Okay. Well, when Nick does get his stuff up, make sure you check his article over at fantasylabs.com. Nick, thanks for joining. Hopefully we can do this again in the near future. We got Coda next week, maybe if that works out for you.
Absolutely. I think it should. Well, no, that's March Madness. I'm not going to be able to do anything during that.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right.
So once March Madness is done, I'll be back. But anyway, I got to roll.
Sounds good. Yep. Bell back to back, just got a feeling. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to come down to, I don't think books are wrong today. Bell, Hamlin, Blaney. Yeah, hopefully a lot of people are drinking green beer today. We had my friends and I had a St. Patrick's Day putt bus yesterday. And I got, oh, you can't see my shirt. It's Irish Car Bomb. Any other questions or builds? Build starts? We got about 2 hours and 45 minutes left before lock. So still plenty of time to get your lineups in. As I said, I'm just not feeling this this slate at all. I'm excited for the race. I'm not excited for the slate. There's a difference. Whereas last week, we're still riding that high on Phoenix last week, and hopefully anybody that tuned in last week had a good week at Phoenix as well. I feel like we really, hit that on the head. Yeah, good luck to you guys as well. Thanks for listening to Stacking Denny's. It's always fun. Plain A Dylan, I don't hate Dylan today. Obviously he has the upside. He has the track record here. He's been a top 20 guy at Bristol in his career. Didn't show the speed in practice, but with how he tends to do, he was also in that Group B, which was obviously not ideal to get a good read on speed. So I don't mind Dylan at all. I think there's a slightly higher chance that this race gets a little crazy with this resin and things changing with that. So don't mind Dylan. Not sure if you trust Bell or his crew over a long race. That's a very good point, but also remember, Hamlin had a speeding penalty here last time and he still won. So a fast car will make up for a mistake. It's just, it's that much harder to overcome a mistake at Bristol. You need stuff to go right. So yeah, I get that. They tried to kill him last week at Phoenix. He still got in victory lane though. One driver stay away from is Logano. I mean, personally, yeah. I do think I'm not gonna have a decent. I'm not gonna have much of Logano, but at the same time, he should be an outside dominator to consider. If you're building 150 lineups today, I think you need to have some Logano exposure because it's not like Logano's bad at Bristol. Let me pull up his track record here. But one thing, like if Blaney's that good, if Blaney was that fast in practice, who's to say that Logano doesn't have similar speed and he was just maybe trying something else out? Like, so I really like, the fact that Blaney was so fast that Logano could get better in this race. 2-time winner at Bristol. He's had issues these last 2 next gen races here at Bristol, but before that, he was pretty much a top 10 contender every single time they came here. So I don't know. Like I said, hand building lineups. Yeah, I'm not landing on Logano, but I think you need Logano exposure today if you're mass entering because of he was not awful in practice and he obviously Blaney is super fast. So and Logano's starting up there. So if Blaney leads early, there's no guarantee that Elliott or Hamlin are going to be the next dominators. It could be Logano. He's going to be up there as well. So no cars to the rear. Yeah, I didn't think there'd be the only question mark was Gibbs and sounds like they're good there. So checking Twitter here to see if anything I might have missed. Anybody else have any questions today? Someone give me a random 3-driver or 4-driver lineup to start with. Going back in these comments too to see if I missed anything. Gilly, Hamlin, or Priest Bell better? That's so close. I'd probably go Depending, I'm assuming you probably have Blaney on there as well. I'm higher on Bell than Nick was. I'd probably go Priest Bell just because of the extra place differential with Bell. Here's one from earlier. Look at this. Larson Hamlin. Hocevar. Don't hate it. You know, a non Blaney. Nemechek is just such a. I'm not high on Nemechek overall, and I'm sure I'm gonna regret that. But just for the sake of having some Nemechek exposure in this contest, though, I am going to lock this lineup in. Larson, Hamlin, Elliott, Jones, Nemechek, Hocevar. That's just such a. That's not even a good sounding lineup. I don't love this lineup by any means. Biggest chalk play you want to fade? Again, I think it. I think in single entry, hell, at this point, it might be Chase Elliott. I'm landing on so much Chase Elliott today, significantly higher than I thought I would, to the point where if I'm hand building these lineups and I'm landing on this much Elliott, he's going to be quite a bit higher owned than I projected. I projected Chase at 19.8%. He's probably going to be 5 to 10% higher than that. So it might be Elliott. I don't mind, single entry fading Chastain. It's another guy that a lot of people are going to end up on. And then if you're looking to get off a Hocevar, I do like going to Gilliland. So, low dollar guy, Hocevar is the chalk play, and I think there's plenty of pivots down there. I don't really like pivoting off of any other chalk guy. And Blaney's obviously going to be chalk, but I don't like getting off of him. So Hamlin, Bell, Truex. See, I don't like Truex here. Truex isn't that good at Bristol. So with this build, like Hocevar, Haley, I think we did a similar build to this before. I'd rather get off of Truex and come down to Chastain or Elliott. And, if I'm doing Hamlin, Bell, Chastain, I'm probably going to get off of Gibbs and go up to Chase. But you could, to stick with the place differential. And, Gibbs was very good here last time around. So you could get off of and throw Allmendinger on there. Hamlin, Bell, Chastain, Gibbs. I actually don't hate that one. Or Hamlin, Bell, Elliott, Gibbs. I don't have any Allmendinger exposure yet. That's why I'm locking this one in. Looks like we got 3 left. Lineup: Blaney, Gregson, Hocevar. Hamlin, Stenhouse, Kez. Yeah, Nick and I landed on this a little earlier. I remember it with the Stenhouse. I was hoping it's not awful. I mean, if the three Dominators are Blaney, Hamlin, Kez, yeah. I'm not a huge Stenhouse fan today, so that's why I'm, it's not jumping out at me but yeah, I think Hamlin's going to be a Dominator. Blaney's obviously going to be a Dominator, and then Keselowski can get up there. So getting off of that Chastain Elliott type of build, and I think I'd still rather go that way. But if Hamlin leads 200 laps and Blaney leads 150 laps, this is going to be solid. So I think you look at the sports books today. Pull up actionnetwork.com/NASCAR here. Top guys got Blaney. Looks like his odds went down a little bit. Blaney at 5-1, Hamlin at plus 550, Larson plus 550, and Bell. You can get him at 7 on DraftKings. Interesting. So DraftKings moved Bell to 7, and I think it's going to be those 4. I want to say my top 3 are Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, if I remember right. Not in that order, but I think those are top 3. Yeah, wow. I did not realize I had Byron projected over Bell today. I like Byron a lot today. Okay, all place differential build with Blaney, Kez, and Ty Gibbs to start. So obviously you're going to need a low dollar guy here to wrap it all or put it all together. Just going to throw a host of our in to see what I'm working with cap wise. Blaney, Kez, Gibbs. I'm probably going. I really like Bubba Wallace today. $300 off from being able to get Chastain and Elliott in that lineup. I would love this lineup. I'm gonna put this in just because I've talked about Zane Smith quite a bit today. Like I'm gonna kick myself if I don't have one Zane Smith lineup. This is super risky to go Zane Smith, but the rest of this build I really like. And you could even jump down here off of Zane and do a little safer route of going Haley, but to have a Zane Smith lineup in here, I need to put this one in. Got 2 more left here. Oops. Shit. If you have not joined my private contest on DraftKings, I tweeted out the link today. Make sure you jump in there and it's $10. Top 10 pays, limited to 50 spots. So make sure you get in there. Someone commented on my squeaky chair. I didn't realize it. Now it's the only thing I hear. I'm definitely gonna have to spray some WD-40 on that. Now it's the only thing I hear. It's like when someone points out something and it's it's all you see or hear in this case. And I'm still liking this Blaney Kez build start and just attacking this group right here. There's one way to get Austin Dillon in it. Blaney, Kez, Gibbs, Elliott, Bubba, Austin Dillon. And, you could come down and grab Allmendinger too. That's probably what I'm going to do, actually. there's just so much value in that $7,000 to $9,200 range that you can just. It makes it a lot easier when Blaney isn't, 11,000 or more like Bell, Hamlin, and Larson. I can't believe I'm having so many lineups today without Hamlin, without Larson, without Bell, who are just great at Bristol and can dominate this race. But the way that this slate is, it makes it so much easier to not include them in lineups. Finish. This is Nick, by the way, for anybody paying attention. Fastest one of all time. Well, good. Make sure, again, guys, make sure you go over to fantasylabs.com. Check out Nick's once that gets published. I'm not sure if it's up yet. Pull up Fantasy Labs here real quick. Yeah, it's not up yet, but it should be here soon if Nick just got done with it. So make sure you check out his article for Bristol today. We got one lineup left. Thank you to everybody paying attention. 959 viewers right now. Part of me wants to stay live to see if we hit 1,000. That'd be pretty cool. Let's see here. I have not made a single Chris Buescher lineup, which is an issue. Let me run. Because my projections do like Buescher quite a bit today. Loves Chase Elliott today. That's interesting. One of my highest projected lineups today is I like where we're land or how Nick and I landed on. Yeah, so Nick's article will be up shortly. I like where Nick and I landed on there with the Blaney Kez Elliott start build because my projections really like that. And like I said, I'm pretty high on Bubba this week. I don't hate this lineup at all. Blaney, Kez, Elliott, Chastain, Bubba, Hocevar. You can get off of Hocevar, come down to Gilliland. Just so much you can do here. This is interesting. Looking at some of my higher projected lineups. Blaney, Buescher, Elliott, Chastain, McDowell, Hocevar is a relatively high lineup projection. So if you did want, like, I know we talked about McDowell and not being able to, or not recommending him today. And I don't love this build by any means. I would not recommend it because I don't like the Buescher in there. Buescher and McDowell. But maybe, like outside Dominator of McDowell, if you think he gets up there and leads, I do not think it happens. FYI, I don't think this happens. But that this does open up the door of, could a McDowell lineup make sense? Again, I'm not liking it enough to put it in, even in this little $4 contest. This is still one of my favorite lineups of the day is this Hamlin or Bell, and then Blaney, Chastain, Elliott, Hocevar, Gilliland. I really like Gilliland today. If you did not want to go Hamlin, you go Larson, Blaney, Chastain, Elliott, Hocevar, and then jump down and grab Justin Haley. Could also get off a Hocevar there and go to Nemechek. All right, final lineup here. I marked one that I wanted to make sure I put in. So, not Byron. Blaney, Chastain, Elliott, Hocevar, Christopher Bell, I'm going to put, I originally had Gillen marked, but I'm going to go Priest here. Priest over Gillen. All right. That's a little over 2 hours. I'm going to get off of here. As always, thanks everybody for tuning in. Good luck today at Bristol. Should be a fun race. Like I said, not too excited about the DFS slate, but we'll see how it goes. Obviously, plenty of people are playing today. So good luck if you're playing. Good luck with your bets if you made any. And we'll be back. I'll be back next week. Hopefully Nick can join on as well for Circuit of the Americas, the first road course race. So excited for that. Excited to see how this spring Bristol back on the concrete race does. I'm just glad that they're out. That I don't care if this race is a complete shit show. I'm just glad that they're done with dirt. Nothing makes me happier. So good luck today to everybody in this race, and we'll see you next week.